Today, we're taking a look at the Ryzen 7 2700X and comparing it to the i9 9900K. And what we have here is two CPUs that really are worlds apart in pricing. Honestly, the appeal straight away with the 2700X is there, and I would say it's there for the majority of people. It comes in at around $300 US, includes a very nice RGB cooler, which does a great job of taking the CPU to 4 GHz day in, day out. And the best thing is you can couple it with a B350 motherboard, granted the motherboard supports 2000 series chips, and you can call it a day, knowing you are getting phenomenal performance for the dollar that will play games well and do productivity tasks equally as well. Now, before we get a little bit more in depth, I will say that there are cheaper Ryzen 1700 chips out there going for even less than this. They represent good value on the surface, though personally I've used a Ryzen First Series 8 core in my main workstation last year for quite some time. I even had it overclocked to 4 GHz, and I feel like the Ryzen 2000 series processors are a step up in many ways. First of all, they clock higher in general, and they do so at lower voltages. This means less power consumption and higher performance. They also have lower latencies. This to me was a big one and was noticeable in everyday tasks, especially when you are plowing through a lot of actions per minute, whether it be mixing music to editing videos. It does add up over time in my opinion. So although the value appeal is there, the Ryzen 2700X is just a more desirable chip than its 1000 series counterpart, and I feel is worth the premium. Though the 9900K, it's just been released and it's one hot chip, all pun intended. It can easily go over 100 degrees, even with the out-of-the-box settings with a solid 240mm all-in-one cooling solution, like the cooler I used, the Corsair H100i Pro for example. The temperatures were very hot, and in this particular case, I'm not comparing coolers to one another, so I didn't use a static fan speed. Also, most people I doubt have their CPU fans running at 80 to 100% at all times. I mean, if I did, I don't know how you guys would watch videos if I recorded them for you, because I'd just simply be bombarding your ears non-stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching Tech Yes City. Before we begin our descent, make sure your seats and GPUs are all in an upright position. Captain out.
Though on that note, out of the box settings, it will get to 4.7 GHz with ease. This is the 9900K, and at these levels it will produce quite fast numbers, beating the 2700X in games and productivity, though doing so at nearly double the cost. Then you have to factor in more expensive costs involved with a bigger cooling solution, better motherboard, and also possibly a higher rated power supply too, and in doing so the appeal does start to wear off a bit in my opinion. The power consumption over time will also mean more money spent daily on the electricity bill, and let's face it, electricity isn't cheap nowadays, especially after the cryptocurrency reigned the scene for over a year, and more people are accessing things like air conditioning and having auto appliances left on in their homes all the time. Though let's talk about gaming specifically. Frame rates were higher in general when I tested the 1080p settings, and this was tested at low by the way, which I doubt only the most competitive of pros would actually use. Me personally, even in a game like Call of Duty Black Ops 4 for example, I put my settings on high because it allows me to see things easier in this particular game. And when we do start increasing the graphics and turning up settings, then the power of the graphics card then takes more of a strain, and we see the frame rate gaps start to close quite fast. And this was tested with an ASUS RTX 2080 Ti, pretty much the best card you can get out there at the moment for gaming. So the Ryzen 2700X is still a solid choice for gamers, and the better news is if you are streaming from the CPU, then the 2700X will yet again do very well in this particular task. So unless you need those frame rates desperately, then AMD's solution is one that has a lot of appeal, especially when it comes to value. Though on to the next factor, and this is productivity. Here's where the 9900K does score more victories, though they aren't a whole lot more. If we were to look at the raw benchmark numbers, it only comes out on top by a marginal victory most of the time, and I'd argue the real benefit of the 9900K versus the 2700X is actually the ring bus versus Zen cores and its Infinity Fabric. The ring bus architecture is the snappiest CPU architecture out there at the moment, not just because of its higher clock speeds, but also because of the design itself. It beats that of Intel's own mesh architecture, but as we have seen in the 8700K versus the 9900K video, if you haven't seen that already, I'll put the link up here, it comes at a cost of poor scaling. In that when you add more cores and threads to this architecture, then the heat dissipation and also the power consumption start to go through the roof of the IHS. Like literally, this thing gets quite hot, and Intel raised the TJ Max thermal threshold on this chip to 115 degrees Celsius, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing in the long term, as most people I know don't even like running their CPUs above 80 degrees for a lengthy amount of time. However, when we move over to AMD's Zen core architecture, these are the cores going in the Ryzen 7 2700X, for example, we can see that AMD is utilizing smaller silicon die size areas and then interconnecting those via what they call the Infinity Fabric. This design itself has some great benefits, especially when it comes to the likes of scaling, as we've seen in their higher end CPUs like the 2950X or even the 32-core 2990WX, for example. Also, since the inherent die size is smaller, they do benefit from running very efficiently and also very cool, and so you don't need a massive cooler to keep these things under control, as witnessed with the 2700X and its included cooler. They also tend to run pretty cool in terms of their overall temperatures compared to the Intel counterparts. However, one disadvantage to this architecture, of course, is that there are increased latencies across the cores themselves. They do have to talk across the Infinity Fabric. This does add up the more cores and threads you introduce, as seen in the 2990WX. AMD themselves are doing, however, a fantastic job of shrinking the node and also increasing the core counts as time progresses. So ultimately though, when it comes down to it, the 2700X is a big value play. It represents some of the best value we have seen in the CPU market ever, and it comes so it being a very practical CPU with IPC that is so close to that of Intel, it's not funny. AMD also have their 7nm Ryzen 2 chips ready for 2019, so that isn't that far away, and we could possibly see a new king of mainstream desktop lines when it comes to IPC when that drops. But until then, the 9900K is the mainstream king, but does come at a considerable cost. If you need this extra speed and are willing to pay for it, then be my guest. But if value is your main concern, then the 2700X is the winner here. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section below, which would you go for at the moment, the i9 9900K or the Ryzen 7 2700X. Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.